Welcome to Chico, California Steak Life Sketches webcast. My name is Ruth Henderson, and today we are visiting with Brother Kevin Albert. Welcome to our program.
Thank you.
We're glad that you're here to tell your story. You have a unique and wonderful, lots of talents. So let's start off with, you are a local man, born and raised in this area. Tell us about your parents and some of your activities as a young child.
Okay. I was born and raised here in Chico. But before that, my parents, I guess they had their own interesting story. My mother was born and raised in the Chico area. My father, on the other hand, was born in Philadelphia and raised on the East Coast. It wasn't until my dad had graduated high school that he ended up moving out to California to attend college. He was very interested in agriculture, and he applied for a lot of the agricultural schools back east, but due to a clerical error with his transcripts, he was denied entry everywhere back east. And apparently the person whose transcripts were superimposed onto his name wasn't very academic, and so that limited my dad's prospects on the East Coast, which forced him to look elsewhere. And he found out here in California they were willing to accept him, and so he made the big move all the way across the country to California to attend junior college right out of high school and pursue agriculture. So you jump forward a little bit, and when he was a little bit older, after I think one semester or two at Hartnell, he got the opportunity to come up to Chico State. They took him on a probationary period of time, mm-hmm. and he came up to Chico State and started attending school. My mom grew up here in Chico, and she was raised by her mother and father here. And shortly after she turned 18 years old, she moved away to Santa Rosa and began pursuing her own life. And she came back to Chico and ultimately was contacted by missionaries knocking on the door. And she was converted to the gospel of Jesus Christ and was baptized. And so that kind of starts their relationship at that point, because she started attending the student branch at that time. And my dad was not a member, but his roommate was interested. Oh. And so the missionaries had been coming over. And one day the missionaries came over, and my dad answered the door and said, "Sorry, he's not here." Mm-hmm. And they said, "We're here to see you today." And they talked with my dad, and he had kind of listened a little bit, and my dad was also converted. And so with them both attending the Chico student branch at the time, mm-hmm. Independently of each other, they didn't know each other. And Brother Monty Hockley was the branch president at the time, mm-hmm. and he gave them assignments to be family home evening ma and pa. And they both independently of each other had gone to Brother Hockley and said, "I don't think I can work with this person. They're too different." And he explained to them that they just needed to give it a try for a little while. And it was maybe 6 months later, they started to realize that they were very different, but at the same time that they gotten to know each other and gotten to work with each other in a ma and pa for the family home evening groups. And my dad asked my mom, could you make a nice meal for the end of the semester for our family group? And she said, "Well, yeah, I probably could." And he said, I'll provide the fixings if you can do a turkey. Mm-hmm. And so she said, "Yeah, I can do that." And it was shortly after that my dad realized she's special. Uh-huh. And they started the date.
Brother Hockley was a matchmaker and didn't even know it.
That's right.
So what were some, first of all, tell us about your siblings that you have.
So I'm one of five kids. I'm the second youngest. So starting with the oldest, it's just easiest to list them all off. Carly was born just over a year after my parents were married. Jason was born just 1 year after that. And then there was a little bit of a break. And then my brother Eric was born. And then 3 years after Eric, I was born. And then 2 years after me, my little sister Allison was born also. So a total of five kids, three boys. And my dad always said that the girls were the bookends. So the boys are all in the middle.
Well, all close together.
Fairly
The
close
family,
together, all
yeah.
about 10 years. 5 kids in 10 years.
Well, your mother and dad were busy.
They were.
So tell us some activities that you like to do in your youth and things that entertained you in this area.
Well, Chico was such a great area, and there was lots to do. So I grew up, and we lived in the same house my whole life, and it was over off of East Avenue near the railroad tracks and a creek, Lindo Channel.
Oh.
And so, what could a boy not do next to the railroad tracks and the creeks? So we threw rocks, we ran up and down the train tracks, we played outside, we had BB guns and bows and arrows, and I rode my bike. We lived on a little dead end street, and so we could ride our bikes in the road, and there was very little risk of traffic. We could play games out on the property. Our family had nearly almost an acre of land, and so we could just everything we wanted to do outside. We had built a tree fort in our younger years. I really enjoyed riding my bicycle and fishing. And so I spent a lot of my free time riding my bikes to my friends' houses. We would swim in the creeks. We would fish. During the summer times, as I would get a little bit older, we would ride our bikes to Upper Park and we would fish until the dark. And oftentimes the park rangers would come and tell us it's time to go. And we'd have to ride our bikes home or get a ride from one of our friends' parents so that we could get home before too late. But yeah, we spent a lot of time in the outdoors.
It was a safer time back then.
I think so.
Okay, now tell us about you're in high school, you're preparing for graduation, and your mission. Tell us about that part of your life.
So I started working with my dad and doing landscaping, and we also helped around the neighborhood cleaning in the church. My dad was the custodian for some of the church buildings here in Chico. And so we kind of got our hands on everything. Yeah, we were in the church building often. We would mow a lot of members of the church lawn. And so we knew a lot of people. And as I got older, more responsibility was put on, and it wasn't just me, it was my siblings as well. We were just expected to continue to work and with the family business. And so we would often spend all of our days after school working. And so it wasn't a big surprise, being active in church and scouting. And then going into high school, a lot of people would play sports. A lot of people had a lot of free time to pursue hobbies. We would go to work right after school until dark. And then oftentimes it was as soon as we got home from work, we went to Scouts or Mutual, and we would spend the rest of that evening doing those activities. And so a lot of the time, our life was really centered around church activities. And all of us kids, we all were going different directions. A lot of the times back then, the youth met separately. And so my sisters would be going some other place, or me and my brothers would be going some other place with scouting. And so we spent a lot of time in doing things apart. And so for me, having older brothers that chose to serve missions, as I got older in high school, it was a little bit expected that you're going to go on a mission. And a couple of years before I was eligible to go, I was really questioning whether or not I should. But as I started my junior and senior year, I got in with a really good group of friends that helped, and all of them were planning on serving missions. And so it helped to shape and guide leading up to going on a mission.
Yes.
So at the time, you had to be 19 before you could leave as a young man. And a lot of my friends were slightly older than me. And so they were all going to be gone.
Uh-huh.
And so I had a little bit of time after graduating high school, almost 9 months before I was eligible to go on a mission. And so I didn't know what I was going to do. And I just remember my mom asking me to promise that I wouldn't move out of the house until I graduated high school because she thought that that was important. By this point, I was working, making my own money, trying to support myself, and still helping out a little bit with the family business. But I had worked in auto shops and learned how to fix things, and it was important for her, once she knew my plan also that I wanted to go on a mission, that I stay around and that I didn't just run off and play all the time and not graduate high school. So it was good to have good friends that had common goals at that time.
They have a big influence on your young life, for sure.
Yeah.
So you did serve a mission. Tell us where you went and a little bit of your mission, some things that stand out to you.
So I did serve a mission I was called to the Canada Vancouver mission up in British Columbia, Canada. And at the time I was dating a gal, and it's kind of funny how it worked out. She was preparing to serve a mission too, and her lease was up. So she moved in with my family, my parents, and I lived in an apartment across town for a few months. And she called me one day and said, "You have a big white envelope with your name on it from the first presidency in the mail," because she had gotten the mail at my parents' house.
Uh-huh.
She said, "You need to get over here and open it."
Mm-hmm.
And I think at the time I was working a walnut harvest and I was filthy. And so I ran to the apartment and got cleaned up. And then as I was heading around the last corner, she asked me, "Where do you think you'll go? Where do you want to go?" And I said, "Honestly, I don't really care where I go as long as it's not somewhere boring like Canada." And then I ended up going to Canada. And it was a great opportunity. I couldn't think of it now a better place. I wasn't strong with languages in my mind. I hadn't taken Spanish in high school. And I thought, I'd love to go out of the country and serve, but I wouldn't know how. And so I was called Foreign Mission English Speaking. I thought, that what a great opportunity.
That is great. Yeah.
So while in my mission, I got to see a lot of different cultures. If anybody's familiar with Vancouver, Canada, it is a melting pot. There are so many different cultures there. And when I started reading information about our mission demographic, there were thousands and thousands of different people from different cultures in that area. Our mission had a Spanish area, they had Cantonese, Mandarin speakers, and they also had a big group of Korean speaking people as well. So while on my mission, I was serving in an English area, but I was put into the ward that had the largest demographic of Korean speakers in it as well. So if you can imagine a ward of about 130 or 140 people, we had 6 missionaries, including Korean speaking and English speaking, every Sunday at church.
Wow.
And big teaching pools.
Yeah.
And many were speaking Korean. So I got to serve in that area for quite a while, almost a quarter of my mission. And then I went off to serve in other areas around British Columbia. I served on the island out in the city of Victoria, which was beautiful.
Yes.
I had the opportunity to train and open at the same time. So open an area with a brand new missionary, and he was from Germany. and he didn't speak that good of English. And so I got to learn how to be a good trainer, and also figure out how we were going to open this area, find an apartment to live in, and then create a teaching pool. And then I was transferred up to the north from the farthest south point in our mission to one of the furthest north points in our mission. And a lot of people don't understand just how big the mission was. And I had to take a bus, a ferry, another bus, a car ride to the airport, fly to the very north part of our mission,
Oh, wow.
and then drive an additional 4 hours to get to my area,
Oh,
all
my
in one day.
goodness.
So it was quite the transfer.
Yes.
And I was there for one transfer. The shortest you could be 6 weeks. And then the mission president called me and said, we have an assignment we'd like you to accept. We are going to be receiving our very first officially called Korean-speaking missionaries who will be trained in the MTC. But until they show up in 4.5 months, we don't have anybody to open their areas, prepare their area books, and build a teaching pool. We'd like you to be a part of that. And so myself and another elder, and then 2 sister missionaries, we formed the first official Korean district that prior missionaries that were Korean native speakers had begun to form. But we were the first non-native speakers to be a part of it, to build the area and to prepare for the trained Korean-speaking missionaries to come in and have an area to work.
Mm.
And so for the last 4.5 months of my mission, I transferred every 6 weeks to a new area. I opened a new apartment. I built an area book. I helped to work with them to build English classes and prepare for these other missionaries that would be coming. And so it was a very interesting part of the mission to suddenly be thrown into a different culture and to have to learn some of the language and be able to communicate with people
Yes.
to help them learn the gospel.
What an interesting honor as well as responsibility for you in that mission. So we want to know, do you speak Korean?
The words, or the saying goes, "Hangul mal 못합니다," and says, I don't speak Korean. I learned just enough to get by. I learned how to pray. I learned how to bear a testimony, a simple testimony. I could read and I could write. It's very similar to English in the sense that there are kind of letters with sounds. And so I learned the language, how to read and write in one day. I didn't know what I was doing or what all the words meant, but I kind of learned how to get by. So luckily, most of the people that we were teaching wanted to learn English. And so they kind of insisted that they'd speak English with us. But
that's good.
it was nice to be able to go in to lessons, and at least I could read scripture for them. And then if they did have members that were also helping teach, they could ask us to just bear a testimony as the missionaries. And I think that at the time, the church had just come out with Teach by the Spirit was the methodology instead of just memorization of lessons. So it was an opportunity for us to learn and to share how we felt and how the Spirit guided us.
Good, good. Okay, so now you've come home from your mission and you met your future wife pretty soon. Tell us about that and where you were married. And
So I came home in July. It was July 11th, I believe. No, July 18th, I believe, is the day I came home from my mission. And I came home earlier in the afternoon. It was a really hot day. I remember it was really hot because we had to travel in suits, come back to California from a much more mild climate, coastal Vancouver, and none of my family's cars had good air conditioning. So I was hot, and it was culture shock and temperature shock, and we got word that President Madsen, who was the stake president, was going to be releasing me later that evening at, I think, 6:30. And I had gotten home at like 1 in the afternoon. And I was thinking, what am I going to do? It's so hot. And so I went home, took a nap, and just visited with family, everybody that was home local. And we had a really good time talking. Came to the stake center and I was released. And we just took my name badge off my suit coat and put it right inside the inside pocket.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, hey, there's a wedding reception going on at the Alamo building.
Oh.
Let's go over there. A lot of people from the YSA ward will be there. And my sister, younger sister, was a helpful driving force in that. I said, yeah, I'd like to go socialize and see some old friends and meet some new ones. And it just so happened that my future wife was one of the bridesmaids. And so going through the receiving line and saying hello and seeing some a brother that I had known before my mission and his wife,
Mm-hmm.
and then got to meet Susan. We didn't start dating right away. It was a few months later in October, I believe. There was a Unity conference that we went up to Whiskeytown and we noticed each other a little bit more and
Mm-hmm.
we started to spend some time together. And it wasn't long after that we started dating. And within, well, we share a birthday. And so on our birthday, we were engaged,
Oh.
which was in March.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were engaged in March and married in July, and we got married on July 9th
Oh.
in 2004, which was just 1 week shy of when I had come home a year before.
Uh-huh.
So
And where were you married?
Susan and I were married, sealed at the Oakland Temple. And yeah, it was a very special occasion for us. Both of our families were able to come and be a part of that with us down there. And it was a very busy time in her family. Her younger sister had gotten married exactly 1 month before,
Oh.
also at the Oakland Temple. So
Wow.
it was very, very busy season
Mm-hmm.
for weddings.
Your wife mentioned at one time that one thing that really attracted her to you was that you were a really good dancer. So,
She told me that once she showed up to a dance, a youth or a YSA dance,
uh-huh.
and I was dancing with either my current girlfriend or a previous girlfriend,
Uh-huh.
and she had taken note that I could dance,
Mm-hmm.
and she wanted to dance.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so now tell us about your children. You have a couple of really awesome boys.
I think they're pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I do. I have 2 boys, Brody and Josh, and Brody is almost 20, and Josh is almost 18.
Mm-hmm.
And so Brody graduated a few years ago, and he's attending Butte now. And Brody is very creative. He's very smart and academic as well. He's doing really well with school. It's funny, as kids grow, sometimes their characteristics and personalities can change. We were just talking about this the other day. Brody used to be our good, strong eater, and he would eat anything you put in front of him and without complaint. And as he's gotten older and figured out who he is, he's a little bit more particular about the food he'll eat. Whereas Josh was the picky eater as a child, and now Josh is eating more interesting and creative things and he's willing to try stuff.
Good. Good.
Josh is in his senior year at Orland High, and he is involved in wood shop. He's won some awards with the fair, and he enjoys woodworking and working with his hands, and is a little more mechanical, kind of like me.
Takes
And
after you.
Brody has followed a little bit more in Susan's footsteps on the academic side, and he enjoys reading, and he's very creative. He likes to write, and he's also very creative in the sense that he likes to create costumes and participate in festivals and anime con type things. So
Good.
yeah, it's very fun to see them grow up and the interests that they've followed, because some are not interests that I introduced to them, and some are.
Yeah. Well, you've had through your years opportunities to really learn some important skills and abilities, and how has that helped you in your life's work now?
So it's very interesting. A lot of times people think they're going to grow up in a certain career path, and they're going to gain their education on that particular subject by attending a school or a trade school or something like along those lines. I never looked at it as this is what I'm going to do to make a living or support myself and my family. I always pursued things that interested me. And in high school, when I started high school, I wasn't getting great grades. Junior high was not friendly to me. There weren't very many options with the class course schedule. But as I got to high school, I was given the opportunity for shop, a little bit more shop classes. And as soon as I could, I applied for the auto shop, welding shop, construction shop. And those types of classes, they spoke a little bit more to me. On a personal level, I felt like I could achieve and excel in those things, partly because I was just interested. I'd always worked with my hands, working with my dad growing up. And oftentimes, if you've ever worked with a lawnmower or a chainsaw, they can be temperamental. And so you have to learn how to make it work. And so oftentimes it would be down at the mechanic's shop, and you just sit and watch what the mechanic does and learn how he did it. And then we might be able to do that out on the job. As I pursued high school, my GPA went up as I took more and more shop classes. And by the time I finally finished school, I was up to 4 shop classes a day. And it was the most that they could allow me to take. But I had teachers that recognized that it was where my mind was, and I was willing to do the work, and it was really beneficial for me. I thought I might go into a trade school at some point, but it didn't fit with my plan to go on a mission. And so I had to learn what was going to be the best thing for me. And so as I took the lessons I learned prior to serving a mission, I took those years to kind of see and make note of what other people were doing for professional life. And I saw people on my mission. I kept track of people back home, what they were doing, and I thought I could do that. I could do that. And so I learned how to do repairs, and I learned how to, continually work on things and just follow the things that I was interested in.
Yeah.
And I think that helped out a lot coming home and then applying for jobs and finding work and finding that I ended up working a lot more for myself. People would just reach out to me and ask, can you do this? And then a lot of the times the answer was, I'm sure I could figure it out. And so that's what I did a lot.
Well, and now you have a business.
Yeah. I
With the
started the business with, it's a family business. It's called Albert Refrigeration, and Susan was very supportive. I had worked for another family in our stake that had reached out to me to do maintenance for restaurants. And I did that for several years. And I learned a lot of good, valuable skills about repairing commercial equipment. And I took that. They were willing to pay for me to learn. And so I took that, and I ended up building a business out of it. When their business closed down, my business opened up. And we've been in business for over 10 years, and it's just grown.
and successful. Not everybody can do that type of work or has the mind or the ability. And you have blessed a lot of lives in your career, in your lifetime, including our family. And we appreciate it.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's been a great challenge and a great opportunity, because I do feel like it is a blessing that I understand some of the way things work. And a lot of the times I tell myself I wish I had the patience to be a teacher because I'd like to instill this knowledge, but a lot of the times I don't think kids are interested. But a lot of people don't understand how things work, and I get customers that ask me all the time, what broke, what happened, and I can kind of convey it to them where they can understand. And it has been a great opportunity for me to grow as a business person, but also it's been a great opportunity for me to support my family.
Right.
And like you said, it's been fairly successful. I really don't have any complaints.
That's great. So, what are some things, some activities that you enjoy doing as an adult now?
So I still enjoy getting out in nature. I don't pedal my bicycle as much as I used to, but I do have one still. But I do enjoy fishing and hunting, and then I do enjoy spending time in the woods, off-roading with my Jeep, and I have a number of friends in and around the Chico area, in the Chico Stake, and that share that passion with me. And I've got a big group of friends in Utah as well, and I try and go out a couple times a year if I can, and we tow our Jeep and we go to Moab or St. George, and we'll spend multiple days out exploring the wilderness in our Jeeps and challenging through obstacles. And it's those are the things that I spend my free time on. I hunt locally and try and fish locally. I enjoy going to the coast and fishing at the ocean as often as I can, usually on a charter boat. But those are the things that I enjoy. But I grew up with my family in the outdoors, and that's the way my wife and I chose that we wanted to raise our family too.
And that's inviting for your boys that love that same thing.
Yeah, it really is. So yeah, that's what I spend my
That's great.
every free chance I get.
Yeah. Well, in the final words here, tell us, what has life taught you through your years?
I was thinking about this as I was looking through photos that I could share. I looked back on a lot of memories and mementos. I learned a lot through my years in scouting that were very practical skills for me. And thinking back about the people that shared those with me, and onto friendships throughout high school and after, and then on my mission, and some lasting friendships that are deep rooted in gospel learning. Having been a parent and having kids that are right at the 20-year mark, I feel like I'm starting to get the hang of it just in time for them to go off and be adults. But some of the things that have hit me the most, I think, are the importance of understanding people and being able to communicate in a world that can be chaotic. I've learned so much through that, the lessons that I've learned, like I said, through Boy Scouts. Sometimes you get put with a tent partner that maybe isn't your first choice. In the missionary experience, sometimes you end up with a companion that is hard to work with. Sometimes you get asked to perform a task that's going to be a challenge, and you have to be willing to take on the challenge because of the promised blessings that come from it. And the nice thing about learning those lessons early on is that you understand that there is so much more important things in life, that whatever small things that may come up that are inconveniences or a hardship, that there's a way around it. And that even through sad times and depression or despair, the Lord knows everything that you're doing, and that you have a way to know that He has felt your pain, and that you can understand and appreciate all that's been given for you to be where you are.
Thank you for sharing from your heart, your story. We appreciate it. Thank you so much for being willing.
Thank you.